Welcome to Seniority Authority, the podcast where I track down experts to answer your questions on aging. I'm your host, Kathleen Toomey. Let's get smarter about growing older. We all know that society has a grim view of aging. Youth is celebrated, age is denigrated, instead of being celebrated for the victory it is to be here. I am so tired of the negative stereotypes of aging that are rampant these days. But I stopped in my tracks when I found the brand new website, askwisebird.com. All of a sudden, here is a site that treats older adults like adults who are curious, smart, involved in the world. Here's a site that provides solution and information, and much like our podcast, helps you get smarter about growing older. When I dug in, it was even more interesting that the best website on aging was created by one of the youngest people in the industry. Lauren Lachs is a digital marketer with a passion for making America a better place to age. She is president of Ask Wisebird, which provides evidence-based guides, videos, and products for those of us who are aging. Prior to Wisebird, she was VP of Sales at Listen First, the leading social media analytics platform, and she's a graduate of NYU's Gallatin School. Thanks to our show sponsor, the Riverwoods Group, Northern New England's largest family of not-for-profit continuing care retirement communities, where independent, active adults find purpose, community, and peace of mind. Visit us at riverwoodsgroup.org. Now, let's hear from today's guest. Welcome to Seniority Authority, Lauren.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I am thrilled that you are here and thrilled that we connected to each other because it was such a breath of fresh air to see your website and see how beautiful it is and how smartly it's designed.
I cannot tell you how good that makes me feel, especially coming from you. I mean, it's really only been live for a couple months now. So to hear you say that and to hear your whole tee up, my cheeks hurt from smiling.
Awesome. Awesome. Because I've been at this for 17 years. And for 17 years, I'm saying, why can we not get a little more sophisticated and a little more real about what adults are really like? And I came to this industry at an older age, but I love the fact that as a young, successful digital marketer, you dove headfirst into the aging industry. So how did that happen?
I will say aging and an interest in aging very much runs in my blood. My dad is a geriatrician. He's at Weill Cornell. And so from a very early age, and I'm so grateful that he did this, but he really exposed us as his kids to aging and to older adults. I have memories of being 4 and going on house calls with him. I think for as long as I can remember, I have had incredibly positive experiences with older adults and also just really seen like how beautiful and wonderful it is to have a strong intergenerational tie in your life, whether that's with grandparents or other people. So I grew up around aging and seeing him and his practice and his patients. And I thought this is just one of the most sort of marvelous things and phases in the world. As I got older and began to see how America, I mean, you just really nailed it in the intro, but how America thinks about and talks about aging and older adults, I was floored. It took something that for me always felt really lovely and heartfelt. And I felt like it paints aging, like the resources, the products, the services, the way we talk about it, the way we think about it. So often people who are older are isolated and they are not necessarily getting to do the things that make them feel alive. I felt like, gosh, like how have we as a society, how can this be the case? And so even though I didn't professionally pursue it right off the bat, I've always been fascinated by it and obsessed with it, particularly from that sort of brand marketer lens of like, we have found a way to make almost every phase of life and problem in life lovely. And we have a population that is increasingly becoming much older than it is younger. What are we doing? Like how are we this bad at this still? And it can't be so.
I love that. I love that
Mhm.
you took that on. And how wonderful that, my dad also took my brothers and I every now and then to accompany him at work. And this is way
Yeah.
before the bring your daughter to work day. And so you grew up with this natural connection of older adults are important and vital and varied and have different personalities, interests. And then with that natural progression, it is shocking to you, as it is to me, how badly we ghettoize older adults. Like you're all
The
aging and have
othering.
nothing. The
Yeah.
othering, absolutely, the
Yeah.
othering. It's like, oh, it has nothing to do with us,
Right.
because it's
Right.
them.
Yes.
And
It's
this
why.
Ask Wisebird just turns it on its head. So you very smart woman, very successful in business. You were a digital trend spotter, which I love.
Yeah.
So explain to our listeners, what does a digital trend spotter mean? And
Yeah.
how does that inform what you created when you decided to leave Listen First?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Pre Wisebird, I spent 8 years at this company, Listen First, which was a social media analytics platform. So, what that means is we had data from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all these platforms that have become such a
Ubiquitous.
ubiquitous, such a big part of most of all of our lives every day. We had pretty much every single data point on what consumers were liking and interacting with on those platforms. And we would work with big Fortune 500 companies, the Amazons and Apples and Disneys of the world, their marketing teams to say, this is working, this is not. But it was often things that were actually really minute that made the marketing that they were putting out reach more people. So, like, the videos that are 32 seconds versus 38 seconds are overperforming by 100x. Or if you're a movie studio, having this character in the key art is majorly outperforming this character. And then, of course, the question becomes, and how does that drive box office sales or whatever your outcome is? But essentially, I spent 8 years enmeshed in digital data on all of these platforms. I think in 2013, it was still unproven just how profound the reach of these platforms is in terms of really being able to get information out there, sometimes in great ways, sometimes in not so great ways. But there is immense opportunity to really, as I felt like in aging, help people that need it. And what I have always sort of felt with aging is that there are some really great things out there. A lot of people just don't know about them. And I think there's really kind of no front door when,
Hmm.
especially digitally when it comes to aging. And the thing that I have seen time and time again, we all have, is that people don't seek help until they've had an issue. Someone falls and now it's, how do I set up my house, versus I don't want to fall and I haven't yet. What do I do? And it really, I felt like, based on everything I had seen and learned of digital trends, there was an opportunity to take all this great information and just distill it and make it lovelier and easier to get to, so that, you know, the hope being you don't avoid it until it's too late. It's actually something that's just in your feed. It's in your mix now. And I mean, we're 4 or 5 months into this. It's like we're such early days, but I've seen not only that to be true, but I've seen, I cannot even tell you how many people said to me before starting this company, well, that's nice. You'll be able to help people's kids who are taking care of them or grandkids or whoever it is, but you're never going to get older adults. 64% of our audience, ironically, is 65 and up. And we have
Awesome.
so
That's
many people. It's awesome. Still, I mean, it's such a vibe, and we get thousands and thousands of comments and messages each week. These are people who are in their 70s, 80s, 90s who are interested in taking care of themselves, their partners, their friends. Like, there's a very digitally native population that is just not really being spoken to. And so that's been super cool to see. And I think brands online, like many brands in real life, cater towards younger audiences. And so I saw that all the time at Listen First, and I saw what it what was working for them and reaching those audiences. And so the genesis of Wisebird was really, we've got access to all this great information on how to age well. If we took some of those best practices and we brought them to this space, could we help people do things proactively before it's too late?
That is perfect. That is perfect. And that is so in line with what we're trying to do here on the podcast. I love your description of saying we want to be the front door to come here first to learn where else you can go for information, because I think that's what people are looking for. And to encourage people to start thinking about this sooner, as opposed to waiting until there's a critical event and then scrambling for resources.
Totally.
Just to make it part of the news, the part of the information that you seek out every day. How can I adjust what I'm doing now to live healthier? What kind of information do I need to know? It's just what our listeners are interested in, and they are going to be flocking to askwisebird.com. One of the things, besides the fact that it is such a beautifully designed website and it is so authentic, it is nicely organized, there's great photos and graphics, and is just appealing to the eye. So a lot of places are not appealing to the eye. You go to a typical aging resource site and it's full of logos and small type and it's confusing. This is the antithesis of that from a design standpoint. But if you look closer, the content that you have curated for this website is unbelievably rich, and it is written by medical professionals without being medicalized. So you have these professional sources that you cite and that you partner with in writing the content, but it's very approachable for the average person. That is a standout kind of feature of your site. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what that was like? Here you are building your brand new company, brand new website. How did you reach out to all these medical professionals and agree and get them to agree to participate, to author some work?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I had a huge head start with my dad, who is, so we have a clinical advisory board for the company that he's part of. And then we have other geriatricians, gerontologists who have joined the board. So it's a unique and amazing experience to get to work with him. And he's been so generous with his network. I will say, though, and I'm sure you've had this experience too. I mean, geriatricians and gerontologists are some of the most wonderful people to work with. And I think one thing that I have found across the board is how excited they've been about getting their work and their research out there in the hands of more people. I think they have a skill set and a background that I don't have, and I have a background that in many instances they don't have, where I think so often they've really wanted to reach more people and don't have the sort of time or apparatus to do that. The goal of Wisebird is to get the work they've done in front of more people and to really help create somewhat of sort of a two-way dialogue. I'm sure we will at some point have webinars or series where they're actually coming on and talking to them. But the idea of like really bringing the data of their lived experiences and their professional experiences, and then also seeing all this data of what we're now seeing with these now 25,000 plus people online, and hopefully, many, many more in the months to come. It just creates this huge dialogue around the ways their work is being consumed and helping people, and also new things that people are thinking about and talking about. So that part has been a real joy. I will say one of the greatest and coolest things about working on this business is that my background and my network are really more focused in tech and media. And I think the ability to bring people into this space who have not yet professionally worked in it and get them to bring their skills into it, whether that's anything from web design or strategy, whatever it is, and to have them sitting with geriatricians and gerontologists and saying, okay, like this is clearly broken. What would it take to fix it? And what are the things that are totally broken? To me, that's how this all gets enhanced.
Oh, no question, because we need more people of other disciplines to get involved in aging, because tech is going to be a part of how we help create some new solutions.
Totally.
I was at a meeting this morning at our local hospital, and we were talking about how there are not enough gerontologists for our population. And so it's going to be more and more important to try to get this information out to people
Yeah.
in manageable ways that they can start learning it and getting involved in it. And then we want to have an exciting opportunity for people who are in tech and who are in media to say, hey, here's an industry that needs your help, that wants your skill set. It's why I mentor with our local university to
Yeah.
get entrepreneurs to say, hey, think about this as a business. This is a problem
Right.
that needs to be solved. Nobody needs
Absolutely.
another app that's going to deliver beer to your dorm room. We need more
Right,
serious things.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So often too, I mean, many people have had like the great luxury of having wonderful relationships with grandparents or another older adult or their parents who are getting older. And the natural passion is there. They just haven't had the outlet yet to express it. And then
Mhm.
once they start thinking about it, it's like, oh my God, like the possibilities are endless.
It's just that someone has to put it in front of them and say, hey, you're not aware of this, but this is an issue and you could probably help.
Exactly. 100%.
So, when you started and you created this company, which is still only a few months old, what were your design principles? How did you describe what you wanted the end result to be?
So I spend a lot of time, as many of us have, looking at different resources in this space and thinking about what I didn't particularly like about them. And so, some of those things where I think more in sort of the tone of them, which has been really, really, I know you and I are so aligned on this, but it's been a really big focus for me. I mean, I find a lot of the imagery and verbiage just be really infantilizing, really paternalistic, really disempowering that people reach a certain age and somehow we strip them of the dignity of being treated like a full-fledged adult or human. I saw that so much. And then I just saw a lot of sites that may or may not have good information, but they were just really funky. They weren't exciting. They didn't feel elevated or sophisticated. So the big goal with Wisebird was really how do we make it extremely user friendly, evidence based, but also elevated, simple, lovely, clean, nothing that feels too overwhelming. And I think we really leaned on short form video as well. I think, like, giving people 60 seconds of information. I think it can feel so overwhelming sometimes. It's like, 7 ways to safety proof your house. And it's like an 8-page PDF. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, it's not that's really dense. It's hard for people to get through that versus like having someone, as we have, walking around the house and saying, hey, I would never do these 3 things. You shouldn't either. And just
Yeah.
pointing them out.
One of the things that I noticed about your site is that you use real people, not stock images, which I love, which again, we do all the same things. You're just smarter. You did it sooner and younger. So it doesn't feel like you're looking at a bunch of stock images. It feels like you are looking at somebody familiar that you might have seen cross the street, that might be your grandparent. How did you go about doing that?
Yeah. This has been one of the coolest things we've worked on. First of all, I think stock photography really matters, right? Like, I think so often I will see an ad on a bus or wherever it is for a home care company, and it's got like just a really kind of stereotypical paternalistic image. And it's like, it's just staring you in the face and it feels totally off. And particularly in aging and elder care, the stock imagery is terrible. It's just not good. It's not reflective of reality. And so I said, no way we're using any stock images. And so we have now done 5 different photo shoots all across the country with talent that has ranged from, I think the youngest was 74 and the oldest was 92. And yeah, and it's been,
Fantastic.
yes, everywhere from Oklahoma to San Jose. We did one in New York. And the goal has really been, let's bring in a photographer we love and admire and take some pictures of someone at this moment in their life. They are it's a beautiful, beautiful privilege to get to be at these shoots. I've been to a couple of them and to see this all happen. Obviously, the photos are a gift, and I feel so
They're
grateful that we.
gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's so lovely to be able to have them and look at them. But I would say one of the biggest things that's shown me and taught me is like how uncommon it is to hire a professional photographer to be photographed at an older stage of life, like that for birthdays and weddings and all these occasions that tend to happen when we're younger. We're really quick to do something like that. And I think at almost every shoot, the talent involved, which has been real people, sort of in our network or friends of friends, things like that, have said, oh, wow, people haven't taken pictures of me in 20 years. Outside of
Wow.
a couple iPhone pictures, like the idea of being the subject and being beautiful and being just part of this whole scene and this whole day. It's like, that's not an experience we typically keep doing through every phase of life. And so that's been awesome.
That it's like the youngest child in a
Yeah.
family of 5 that never gets photographed.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
energy runs out. And it's another sign of our society saying, oh, well, we don't need to they're old. That's it. We don't need to take photos of them.
Totally.
The opposite is true.
Totally. And not to mention, the details in these photos are so gorgeous, right? And I will tell you, because I see it in all of our analytics, things that feature older hands versus younger hands do 3x as well. These are very, these are things that I think when we think about just like what society thinks, we think, oh, we want the wrinkle-free, the unblemished, we want the perfect version. The data is not saying that.
Yeah. People want to see themselves. And they're tired of the bombardment of all young images. And so I applaud you. That jumped out at me right away. I was like, these are real people.
Aww.
These are actual people who are living their life and enjoying kind of who they are, embracing who they are. It is just so perfect.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that.
If you're getting smarter, let us know. Leave us a review, a rating, wherever you listen to podcasts. Tell your friends and follow us on social. We're at Seniority Authority on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And don't forget, if you're listening to YouTube, hit the notification bell so you can subscribe. Or subscribe to our newsletter at seniorityauthority.org so you don't miss a thing. So what's your goal with Wisebird? Tell me a little bit about, you want a website, you want to be the front door, but tell me how you think it is going to change lives, and what would you want our listeners to look to the site for?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think at the highest level, the goal has been to be the go-to trusted resource. So a place that if you're watching one of our videos or reading a guide, that you can really trust the information. I guess the highest level goal is to grow the community exponentially, to have, millions of people in our audience who at every stage of their aging journey feel like they can get what they need. I think down the line, as we get more and more data and learn more about what people like and what's most helpful to them, I think being able to personalize the results as much as possible will be really valuable. Even now we have a diagnostic assessment that you can take when you come into the site if you want to, that this is if you are taking care of someone else, or you could do it for yourself, but it asks you like 5 minutes of questions about different preparation you've made for aging across like aggregating certain medical information or legal paperwork or home safety things you've done. And then it'll actually, spit out a score and give you some checklist items of like, cool, you've done all these things, but you still need to do these. I love the idea of being able to provide as much relevant personal information as possible. And then I think the loneliness epidemic is so challenging for so many people. Our Facebook page to me feels a little bit like a digital senior center. Like there's so much connection and back and forth between our audience. And so I would love to find a way, whether it's pointing people in the direction of real life resources and things that can make their life better, whether that's something they really need, like a contractor to, help with something in their house who they know will help them and not take advantage of them, or it's meeting people. I'd love to be able to like really give people relevant information to them based on where they are physically and where they are in their whole journey.
And I think that's fabulous that you have right now the first gateway to personalizing the information, those topics are really easy to say, I did this, I didn't do this. And then it helps you feel like, okay, I already have a guide. That means I have done all this financial stuff, but I haven't done anything to my home. And gives you a sense of progress and a place where you're going to get your questions answered. And I think I could easily see Wisebird chat groups popping up in real life and people getting together. And I mean, it's not even 6 months yet. And so I could see it's really taking off and really being a catalyst for people to get together to change their lives. How are you getting feedback from people on the site? What kind of responses are you getting so far?
Yeah, well, I guess the beauty of having spent so much time working in digital analytics and data is that I spend so much time in our analytics, really seeing like what's doing best, what's most interesting to people. I mean, I feel so grateful. We've gotten a number of messages and comments of people thanking us for help with specific videos or articles or whatever it might be. More than anything, I've just tried to keep an open mind in terms of what I might think might be, the most popular topic is perhaps not what people need the most help with. And I'm also always trying to think about some topics can be easier to avoid than others. Some are more palatable. So it's like, what could be someone's journey? Do they find us because they found that our tips on how to make your iPhone screen easier to see really helped them? And now like, oh, interesting. Okay, there's some stuff on home safety. And then if it ever came time to really understand what things to look for, if you need to go out and hire an at-home aide or whatever it is, or find a new doctor, things that maybe are more sort of health oriented versus lifestyle oriented. I just really tried to keep an open mind. I mean, again, it's been so amazing to see how many people over 70 have engaged with our site, with all of our content, who are looking for information for themselves. I think if I had gone purely on gut instinct or what people might have imagined before actually launching this and looking at the data, I think I would have totally dismissed that.
And you have such a great feedback mechanism right now with the data you've seen. So what are some of the most popular sections of the website? What do people do first?
So the iPhone and tech support stuff has been a really popular sort of like first magnet, I would say. People learning how to use the magnifying glass on their iPhone, which is such a great thing. For anyone here that doesn't use it, the iPhone has a great built-in magnifying glass, or make their phone easier to see. But any sort of tips and tricks around the iPhone. I mean, I think Apple's one of the most important companies, obviously, in the world, in the country, but in aging, because these devices can do so much to keep us connected and also safe. So that's been a big one. And then we partnered with a dermatologist. So much of skincare as we age is about anti-aging, which I think is so
I hate that word.
It's so reductive and it's so unfortunate. And so what we've done with her is like, okay, so your skin changes as you age. What are the best products that make it feel great? If your skin's dry, why should you choose creams over lotions and all those things? So that's been really popular. And then a lot around dating, and dating over 60 has been really popular.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so interesting.
Yeah.
So it's almost like an onion. People are going to go to the kind of least personal, like iPhone, that kind of thing. And then the more they trust you, the more they'll get. But dating is pretty intimate information.
Yeah, totally. And I think, yes, absolutely. I mean, I would say sort of more in the middle of the pile are things like, how do I prepare to see a specialist for the first time? Or how do I know if I have the right doctor? But choosing a doctor when you're older versus younger has many different considerations. And I think oftentimes people see that there's something in their dynamic with their doctor that they don't necessarily, because doctors too can be ageist, unfortunately.
Yes.
And
oh yeah.
so, yeah.
Oh, they absolutely can, like for your age and for your,
exactly.
And that's very reductive.
Yeah. So those get a lot of readership too. And so, but yeah, definitely the iPhone stuff has been, we've gotten a lot of really positive feedback on that. And
that's fantastic. How are you spreading the word about this website? Because you're a digital marketer and because you're right, what was your plan to announce it?
Yeah, so my plan, and this is not digital marketing advice, but just advice from someone who's budget conscious, is really to kind of see what worked organically before putting any paid media behind this. And so we really saw from the get-go that there was a lot of organic traction on Facebook with what we're doing. I think it makes sense with our audience and some of the audience demographics on that platform. And so we have really just started to do more of a concentrated paid push. We did our first paid campaign. We're running it right now, actually. We are doing an ad on Julia Louis-Dreyfus's podcast, Wiser Than Me.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
a great podcast.
yeah. And it was, I mean, it's obviously it's enormous when people with her type of platform step out and really talk about how valuable older women, older people in our society are. So that just felt so aligned with what we care about.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Are there topics that you really wish that people would go to the website for? We know what they go to because they want to,
Yeah.
but are
Yeah.
there topics you feel like if they went here or talked about this, this would be such a game changer for them?
My personal take is that the home safety piece it is for a lot of people is still an issue even when they have taken steps to sort of solve the issue. And so much as like I think there are a lot of common things around safety proofing one's home that we do, grab bars, railings, and things like that. We're also focused on fall prevention. It's such an important thing. I think the acknowledgement of how important this is there, but I think there's often a lot of smaller details like overlooked that unfortunately are problematic. I've seen people have issues where their refrigerator door is too heavy. Really subtler details where do they have to, stand on their tippy toes to reach their washer dryer? Are there plates somewhere where they have to bend down? Like the devil's in the details type things.
Yeah. And body dynamics. And just because you've had your plates in the same place for
Exactly.
60 years doesn't mean you can't move them up, move up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And PS, like we have found so many incredible, inexpensive products on Amazon that make aging at home much easier for everyone. Like I think one of the big issues in aging right now or aging products right now is that the products are so distinctly for an older adult and they are so unappealing. That's where it's terrible. And that's where Apple's been so amazing is I mean, Apple's for everyone. And we have found so many things and our advisory board recommends so many things to patients that are such no-brainers for any age. Things like putting a great lazy Susan in your refrigerator so you're not reaching in the back of your refrigerator. If you love to blow dry your hair, but it's hard to just constantly untangle and retangle the cord, get a wall-mounted hair dryer. Great stuff.
Easy stuff to do that anyone can benefit from. And I think that's the really fun part about Wisebird, askwisebird.com is you can go in and say, okay, I don't want to spend $400 on La Mer skin cream that may not work. I want to go through the drugstore with a dermatologist and say, what you need to make your skin feel more supple or more this or more that. And it's really fun, practical, easy to navigate, easy to spend time in. And I think you walk away saying, okay, I've learned something and I can figure out how to do a few things in my life differently that are smarter, that are going to be more helpful to me.
Yeah, it's really the goal.
Yeah. So what do you see as the future for Wisebird now, X number of months in?
The biggest one is really continuing to grow this community and get in front of people who need this information. And then I think there's a couple different things because I think on one side of it is how can we continue to give you exactly what you need based on your situation and where you're living and the community around you and the resources around you and even things like help you need with your Medicare plan and if you have questions around switching to
my gosh, that's a nightmare.
Which is a nightmare. And obviously, there's a whole ecosystem around all of these things. But I think really being able to kind of integrate many different pieces of one's life to help point them in the right direction. So I think that's one big piece of it. I think the second piece, though, is what we can do to help the loneliness epidemic. We now have this fantastic group of people, many of whom are like-minded and invigorated. And I'm really interested in, well, how can we forge some of those connections deeper in a digital way and potentially in real life too, as this grows?
Yeah. And I think People are going to get their answers digitally. We're
Yeah.
all
Right.
enjoying the opportunity to have telehealth visits with
Right.
physicians and
Right.
to get answers right on our phone. So, I mean, people are accepting of that and
Right.
want that.
Right. Totally. And I also think companionship can take so many different forms. And I think everyone's community setup is different. And there are some people who have fantastic communities around them that they're an integral part of, like you. And I think there are some people who might be somewhere that is more physically isolated or rural, or they're not even somewhere that's more physically isolated, but they still don't necessarily have connection right around them. And so I think so much of what's been really challenging about older adults connecting online is that scams are so rampant, and it can be
Oh,
so
yeah.
difficult to really get, to make vetted friends or even date in a vetted way. I'm sure you've heard about sweetheart scams and all this stuff that's come up on dating apps and things, particularly targeting older adults. And so I don't know what direction we take it, but I'm very interested in this idea of we get to connect with so many incredible older adults who have the best ideas and have so much interesting stuff going on. And like, how do you bring people together?
Well, I think you have provided a
Mhm.
place for older adults to get
Mhm.
together, to be recognized, to be seen, to
Mhm.
be respected, and to contribute and to
Mhm.
get information that they need in a really beautiful way. I
Yeah.
am really excited about this site
Aw.
and having spent years looking at
Yeah.
aging sites. It's such a breath of fresh air. It's just beautiful. I would encourage every single one listening to the podcast to look at askwisebird.com and just
Yeah.
play around. It is
Mhm.
wonderful. It is a wonderful gift to all of us who are aging.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
you're welcome. So we have this fun thing, the
Yeah.
Fast Five Lightning Round. So we know you're a very young, talented person who is still a professional in aging, but let's
Yeah.
get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah.
Share with us what your guilty pleasure is.
It's my recent guilty pleasure. I don't know how guilty this is, but there's a lot of good and a lot of bad, but I'm very into The Golden Bachelor.
Oh, okay. That is very aligned with what you're doing.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it, but I know a lot of people who are watching it.
It's
And yeah.
it's hard to tell if it's a step forward or a step backward. I mean, I think it's more of a step forward than a step backwards. There's a lot about it that's unrealistic, but there's a lot about it that's just really fun to watch. So I do
I think
recommend
it's
it.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
I'm not a
Yeah.
reality TV person, but I'm glad to see it's
Yes.
showing older people
Yes.
having romance.
Yeah.
Of all the things that you and your husband do in Brooklyn and to stay healthy, what's your favorite healthy practice?
Oh, that's a good question. About 5 years ago, I, for the most part, stopped eating added sugar. I'm not like militant about it, but I just noticed how much I was living and dying for my next my next bite of sugar. And I definitely noticed that when I am able to not eat added sugar, life is, you feel for me, a greater sense of stability.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is really good. I should do that.
It's
It's gotta
it's
be
really
hard.
hard. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
really
know.
hard.
I know. I live and die by sugar, but
Yeah.
at some point I might do that. What's guaranteed to make you laugh, Lauren?
I I love The Office, like reruns of The Office. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is guaranteed to make me laugh.
Yeah,
Always.
that is a classic. Tell us the last book that you loved.
I just finished reading this book, The Guest by Emma Klein,
Emma
which,
Klein.
yes, which was like a bit of a book of the summer apparently, and I thought it was great. It definitely it did. I read it in like 2 days. It was one of those books that it kept me very interested.
Yeah, and you could really envision that character kind of slinking around the Hamptons looking for her next place to
Totally.
stay. It was
Totally.
kind of a microcosm of a certain part of society. Yeah, that was
Totally.
I felt the same way. I love that book. Yeah.
I love that you read it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm a what are they? Chain reader. Like if they
Oh,
have chain smokers, I need a book
I
always.
need a rec. So
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna bum a rec from you.
Okay. All right. So let's see. I'm reading The Lioness of Boston right now, which is about Isabel Stewart Gardner, who is a total iconoclast. She did not fit into Boston society. She had a child that she lost, and she's trying to find herself. And she eventually created this gorgeous, gorgeous museum, which was her home, and willed it to the people of Boston. It's one of the most beautiful museums, especially in the winter. So that was good. And I have others, but
yeah, I just added that to my list.
okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. And tell us where your favorite escape is.
My favorite escape. Good question. Not necessarily an escape, but I will say that I live near the ferry in New York, and I'm able to take the ferry as my main form of transport, which is like a relatively new thing for me. I've only been living here for about 6 months, and I have like many, and I've lived in New York for a long time. I had never taken the ferry. The ferry is this, it for whatever amount of time you're on it, it is an escape. It is this rare gift that New York City gives you. And it is in such sharp contrast to all the other ways to commute in New York.
Oh my gosh, yes. Did you have the song from Working Girl in your head as you stand there?
Totally. I'm like, I can't believe that this exists.
Yeah.
Everything about it just works really well. And you're like, what a crazy way to kind of get around the city.
Compared to the subway or yeah.
Totally.
We have a ferry in Boston for a period of time. I lived in the South Shore and was able to take the ferry into Boston, and it felt like cheating.
That's exactly it. It's like pinch yourself.
Yeah.
It's a pop of escape whenever you need it.
I know. Yeah. I know. Oh, that's awesome. Well, it has been wonderful to have you on the show, Lauren. Thank you so much. Thank you for the gift of AskWisebird.com. You're really a game changer in our industry and just in time because we need you.
Thank you so much. This has been such a joy. Thank you. Thank you.
That's our show for today. If you like the show, please don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And until then, make sure you enjoy the chance to get smarter about growing older. If you're getting smarter, let us know. Leave us a review or rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Tell your friends and follow us on social. We're at Seniority Authority on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And don't forget, if you're listening to YouTube, hit the notification bell so you can subscribe. Or subscribe to our newsletter at seniorityauthority.org so you don't miss a thing.